Hey guys, and welcome to my Magicka Dragonknight build for the Wrathstone patch. This is one of two builds I'm going to be running during this patch, and if you're just finished watching the little highlight reel I put together to sort of showcase the build, you're probably wondering what exactly we're running, so let's just jump right into it. Our race for this build is going to be a Breton. After the recent racial passive changes made for this patch, Breton has become arguably one of the best Magicka races in the game. They now have a lot of built-in sustain through cost reduction and regen that allows them to build for more damage and sort of compete with the other Magicka races like High Elf and Dark Elf that get passive increases to their spell damage. So they're just a very all-around solid Magicka race. A stat sheet you can see here. I'm not going to go into too much detail about this. I'm actually going to leave a link for the build sheet in the description for this video. There you can take a look at certain numbers buffed and everything like that, and there's a couple things on here that aren't right due to some Cyrodiil buffs, as well as there's one piece of gear I don't have transmuted to the correct trait, so I'd rather leave you guys with the correct numbers than just sort of going over what I have here. Last things here for our character sheet, we are a vampire for this build. I know a lot of people say that vampire just isn't really good open world anymore. Dawnbreaker does too much damage, fire, this, that, and the other thing. I've been running vampire since a lot of those changes went through, and I think it was Somerset, and I really can't say that they're enough to make me want to give up things like Undeath and the extra regen. And our Mundus for this build is the Atronach. So now that we're finished with that, let's jump right into the sets. So for our sets, we're first going to talk about our monster set. This is our defensive set. Pretty straightforward here. Bloodspawn, we're running it as a light armor head with a tri-stack glyph is infused. This should be impenetrable. I haven't changed this yet, so it's infused right now. Our shoulders, medium impenetrable with a Magicka glyph. Uh, Bloodspawn is very bread and butter set in Serial, especially for Dragon Knights. It offers a lot in terms of defensive capabilities you get with the additional resistances, and the increased ultimate regen from this helps Dragon Knight a lot. We have a passive called Battle Roar that restores resources to us on ultimate usage, so the faster that we can get our ultimates, the better our sustain is going to be. The first set we're running, or the second set rather, we're running for this build is Scathing Mage. We're running that as a Nirnhone Staff, Arcane Necklace with Recovery, and 2 Arcane Rings with Spell Damage. For the trait for your Flame Staff, you have a couple options. Nirnhone is going to give you a little bit more damage all around. An Infused Flame Staff is going to give you a lot of additional pressure in your light attack weaving. It's going to add a lot of damage to something like light attack whip, light attack burning embers. As long as you're weaving, you're going to be getting the benefits of the increased flame damage enchant all the time. Precise is also an option you can run on this for the increased critical chance, because critical chance is going to help the 5-piece bonus proc more on this build. And that 5-piece bonus, as you can see here, is when you deal critical damage, you have a 20% chance to increase your spell damage by 504 for 6 seconds. This effect can occur once every 6 seconds. The main reason I'm running this over something like Burning Spellweave, both sets function in a similar fashion and do the same thing for you. However, Burning Spellweave, while it does last 2 seconds longer than Scathing Mage, can only occur once every 12 seconds. So there is a 4-second window in which Burning Spellweave cannot proc. And with Scathing Mage, the effect lasts for 6 seconds, and it can occur every 6 seconds. So as soon as it ends, it can be procced again. And Magicka Dragonknight, I believe, is the class best suited for taking advantage of this 5-piece bonus. In addition to direct critical damage, Dragonknight has a lot of dots that they can put on an opponent, and in this build in particular, you have Burning Embers, Engulfing Flames, the Volatile Armor dot, and the dot from Degeneration. That's 4 additional sources of potential critical damage that you're going to have that are going to be able to proc this 5-piece bonus. So with all that in mind, this proc should be up for you just about all the time. I haven't run into a situation yet where I say to myself, yeah, I lost that fight because my Scathing Mage didn't proc, or I didn't do enough damage in this situation because my Scathing Mage didn't proc, or my Scathing Mage hasn't procced, I have to wait until it does to be able to use my burst combo. Scathing Mage for me has been up just about whenever I have needed it. The last set for this build is going to be Julianos. We're running that on all of our remaining body pieces. We're running a heavy chest for the increased resistances and impenetrable with a tri-stack glyph. And then our 4 remaining pieces are all light armor. The pants will be impenetrable with a tri-stack glyph as well. And the small pieces will all be impenetrable with a Magicka glyph. I decided to run Julianos on here for a couple reasons, and the biggest one being the 2 additional lines of spell critical that you're going to get. Obviously, as I just explained with Scathing Mage, it best procs with a higher critical chance. So this set is pretty much does that for us while giving us a decent amount of static damage as well. And what I mean by that is the 5-piece just adds 299 spell damage. There's nothing you have to do to proc that. It's just there all the time. So even when Scathing Mage is down, you still have a respectable amount of spell damage, and you can still hit very hard even without the Scathing Mage proc. The Scathing Mage proc is just going to make you hit even harder. Our Restoration Staff on this set is Black Rose. We're running that as an infused with a weapon damage glyph. Pretty much with this, the additional damage, as you can see, lasts for 5 seconds. As soon as that 5-second ends, you can swap to this light attack again and get it back. The infused trait makes it a very static source of damage for you. So as long as you're paying attention to your timers, you can have this up pretty much 100% of the time. Black Rose Restoration Staff, how it works, I'm sure you know, I'm sure you've heard about this staff, and it is just flat out incredible. The 2 set is that when you use Steadfast Ward, you apply Major Vitality to your target, increasing their healing taken by 30%. That right there should just, wow, this is a very, very good, maybe a little bit overperforming two-piece bonus. It's very, very strong. The coagulating bloods I've hit with this have been absolutely insane. I've hit wards, swapped and cashed in our burning embers. I've hit wards, swapped and used cauterize, and if any of those heals crit, it's just forget about it. I've been in execute range, popped a ward, got a heal, and have gone back to like 90% health. Like it's honestly mind-blowing what this staff can do for you in terms of survivability. As you can see, I am running the normal version of the staff, so I am only getting the two-piece bonus. If you want to get real sweaty and run Black Rose Prison to try to get the perfected version of the staff, you will get an additional line of Magicka recovery. However, I don't think it's absolutely necessary to have with the amount of time that you actually spend on this bar. This is pretty much just a buff and a defensive bar. So not having that recovery isn't detrimental to the build. You can definitely make it work with the normal version of this staff. Next, we're going to take a look at our offensive and defensive bars and what we're running for this. So on our destruction staff bar, we're running Burning Embers, Fossilize, Elemental Drain, Flame Lash, Cauterize, and Ferocious Leap as our ultimate. Burning Embers, really straightforward, strong dot, incredible heal. The better that you can micromanage this in your fights, the longer that you're going to stay up. Being able to tag multiple targets with this is very important, just to have multiple sources of healing that you can go to when you need. Fossilizes our single target CC, really good. It's a double CC, goes through block. This is going to be how we're going to initiate our burst combo, by just stunning them and stopping them from being able to resist any of the damage that we put out. Elemental Drain is an incredible skill from the Destro staff skill line. You can read here, it's going to afflict your target with Major Breach for 24 seconds, reducing their spell resistance by almost 5.3k. That is a phenomenal increase in damage. You're also going to get Minor Magicka Steal for the same duration of 24 seconds, and you're going to get 300 Magicka back every 1 second, so that's actually an additional 600 regen every 2 seconds when you have this going, so it's a great source of damage and sustain. On this build as well, you can also run Engulfing Flames. The damage increase from Engulfing Flames compared to the damage increase you get from the additional spell penetration of Elemental Drain is pretty much the same. The only thing that you're going to be doing really is you're trading out the Minor Magicka Steal and Sustain for an extra dot and more defense, and having this extra dot on the build will also help Scathing Mage proc more, as just it's an additional dot, it's an additional source of potential crit damage. Flame Lash is our single target spammable DPS. Really can't say too much about it. Really good. The Power Lash is the redeeming quality of this. It hits much harder, and it's going to give us a pretty fat heal over 2 seconds. Cauterize is going to be on our front bar for the spell critical you get while it's slotted. Also, the healing that it does is phenomenal. It heals 4 times, once on cast, and then 3 times every 5 seconds for 15 seconds. Really can't say much more than that. It's really good. Our ultimate is going to be Ferocious Leap. This is going to be our single target ultimate. This is what we're going to use to burst down targets after we get them all dotted up, after our Scathing Mage is procced and we have all our spell damage, and you want to really just rip into somebody. This is what you're going to use to do it. You're going to fossilize, you're going to light attack, flame lash into the power lash, or however you want to do it, and this ultimate's really good. Just does a lot of damage. Taking a look at our restoration staff bar, coagulating blood. This is our pretty much, I'm going to call it an oh shit heal. Ideally, you want to be managing your health pool between things like Cauterize and Burning Embers. This is here for when you take a big hit of damage, whether it's from like Snipe, Subterranean Assault, anything like that, just sort of hits you and you're like, whoa, I need to take a second and just heal up really quickly. This is going to be that. Reflective Plate here is our Snare and Immobilize remove, as well as our Reflect. I know this ability is rumored to supposedly be changing in a future patch, and I'm sure that you all know what it's going to be by now. That's that's what's been said, what's been floating around. I personally think for open world, the new changes are going to be fine. Um, I've already decided that I'm still going to be running this ability when that patch comes out, and if those changes come to fruition, um, really the main reason that I've always ran this skill is because of the snare immunity and immobilization immunity. That was the selling point for me. The reflect was always just sort of a bonus, and I think with the changes, you'll still be able to make pretty good use of this in open world Cyrodiil. I'm definitely not going back to Mist form, that's for sure. Ward Ally is our third skill. This is a morph of Steadfast Ward. With the changes to Healing Ward no longer applying a heal on use, and just with how the Black Rose Restoration Staff works, I've decided to go with Ward Ally. Ward Ally will guarantee that you always get a shield when you cast this ability. You and the lowest health target closest to you will get a shield, so you will always benefit 100% of the time from the 2-piece on Black Rose Restoration Staff. This is just to ensure that no matter what, you always get that buff, because hitting a ward with Black Rose Restoration Staff and then hitting that oh shit heal just makes that oh shit heal even bigger, even better. Degeneration is our spell damage buff. I run Degeneration instead of Structured Entropy for the additional healing that this can do. It's just any more healing is always a good thing, and I'd rather have a static health pool other than the health pool changing back and forth between bars. Volatile Armor. This is going to be our armor buff. You pair this together with the Blood Spawn proc, and this is where most of, if not all, of your resistances are going to come from this build. Those two together are going to make you really tanky, even at light armor. Our ultimate on this bar is Light's Champion. It is the Restoration Staff ultimate. This is a very good heal, again, paired with Ward Ally and Black Rose Restoration Staff. Hitting that and then popping this makes it an even better heal. And the main point of this ability is the major protection we're getting for 5 seconds, as well as increasing our crit damage by 15%. It's just a kind of a no-brainer when you're running a Restoration Staff. You can use this ultimate defensively and turn it into offense. It's very good. And the last thing we need to talk about for this build is the champion points. So let's start here with the tower. I'm running 56 points into Warlord for the break free cost reduction, 27 points into Sprinter. Sprinter I really like open world, especially on a Dragon Knight. They do not have a lot of mobility, and a lot of the times I find myself hitting my wings to break free of snares and immobilizes, and then immediately sprinting, whether to reposition myself or to create distance. So I like having the points in here to reduce the sprint cost to do that better and more often. We're running 75 points into Arcanist and 29 into Tenacity. I usually play heavy armor builds, so they get the, I think it's like 25% increase to resources returned on heavy attacks. So going to light armor, I am losing that. So I'm going with a couple points into Tenacity to obviously not get all of that back, but some of it back and make it feel a little bit better for myself. 41 points here into Tumbling. Being able to roll dodge a little bit more is always welcome in Cyrodiil, so this, I usually run about 20 points into that on my builds. For this one, I'm going to try a little bit more, since I'm going to be using, I feel like I'm going to be using that stamina pool for roll dodging a little bit more, not having heavy armor resists. 42 points into Shadow Ward. Even though we're not running a sword and board build, even though we're not in heavy armor, I still do a decent amount of blocking on my back bar when applying shields and heals. If I can't just immediately reposition to myself into a safe position to do that. So I like to have the block cost reduction still, just to make sure that my stamina doesn't get absolutely eaten up when I do that. For our blue trees, we're running 51 into Elfborn, 51 into Spell Origin, 64 into Elemental Expert, and 21 into Blessed. For the same reasons that I'm putting points in Tenacity, I'm putting them into Blessed here. I think it's 8% increase to healing receive with heavy armor. I'm losing that, switching to light, so I'm putting a couple points in Blessed to sort of get that back. 72 into Master at Arms, and then the rest we're just putting into Thaumaturge. If you're fine with no Blessed in this build, if you've been playing light armor and you're comfortable with it and you don't run points into Blessed, you can absolutely take these 21 points, and I would suggest putting them into Thaumaturge as well. I think with that 21 in, you're going to get a little bit over 13% increase to your damage over time effects, so you can definitely put it in there. For our red trees, I am running 56 into Ironclad, 56 into Resistant, 56 into Thick-Skinned, 37 into both Hardy and Elemental Defender, and then I'm actually running 28 into Light Armor Focus. 28 is going to give us 2.5k more resistances, and Ironclad reduces damage taken by direct damage attacks, whereas this is just flat resist that's going to reduce the damage from everything with the exception of bleeds. So because of that, I decided to put my remaining points into this just to get a little bit more resistance overall for the build. So that's everything. If you have any questions about the build, whether it be sets, champion points, race, anything else that you'd really like to know, you can leave them in the comments. Like I said, there's going to be a link to the build sheet in those comments as well if you'd like to take a look at it to just get a better idea of spell damage, resists, regen, and those numbers while buffed up. That'll be in there for you. Thank you so much, guys, for hanging out with me and watching this video. I really had a good time theory crafting, putting this build together and testing it in Cyrodiil, and I really like it. I like it a whole lot more than I thought I was, and then I hope that if you guys decide to try this build too, I hope you enjoy it just as much as I did. So thank you guys, and I'll see you around.